Empires Apart went free to play about 5 years ago, an event that passed almost everyone by. But why? The game was still modern in 2018, its choice of low poly graphics is quite timeless and still looks good today. Well, I had never heard of it until a few days ago. I was doing a spot of research trying to find if there was any free to play RTS games on the market. I don't just mean free games, I mean commercial products that are supported by in-app purchases or optional DLC. There are a lot of open source projects out there and plenty of abandonware. I was attempting to find a free to play RTS that wasn't StarCraft 2, and the one that kept coming up was Empires Apart. Well, first of all, what is Empires Apart? Well, if you were kind, and it was 2018, you might call it a modern RTS inspired by Age of Empires. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10, describing it as extremely entertaining, and StrategyGamer.com called it both a good spiritual successor to Microsoft's classic and a good game in its own right. If you were unkind, you might call it a poor imitation of Age of Empires with none of the character, charm or intricacy. Sorry, I don't mean unkind. What's the word I'm looking for? Yes, that's it. Honest. So, what's the experience actually like? Well, it has the look and feel that it might be a good game. When you load it up, you're presented with a tutorial that successfully gets you up to scratch with the basics. You start with a town hall and a few villages. You send your scout out to survey the area, you chop wood and you build farms. Your villagers respond to your orders with some mumbled words that aren't quite real and you immediately feel like you're playing Age of Empires. This makes you feel good as you remember Age of Empires was awesome. You finish your tutorial and go into skirmish to get a bit more done. You expand a bit and build a lot of different units. They feel like the kind of units you're used to in Age of Empires. The first thing that starts to worry you is everything feels a little too familiar. There are berries and wild deer near your base as a source of food as in Age of Empires, but also in Age of Empires there was a couple of sheep in your base. So there's a couple of sheep in this game too. Now, just like Age of Empires, your scout can go up and find more sheep and send them back to your base for the slaughter. Things start to feel a bit wrong. The sound design isn't great. There isn't any epic music and the controls are kind of fiddly and unfamiliar, and the icons on the UI really aren't great. There aren't any new ideas thrown into the mix, but if you're a kind-hearted individual, you press on anyway and give the game a chance. After all, it would be unfair to judge something just based on the tutorial and the start of the first skirmish. So, you press on and try a proper skirmish, and it unfolds exactly like the initial one. Nothing you click or do brings you any real joy, and you feel yourself grasping at straws, desperately looking through the lists of things you can build for all the units and features that you're missing, but they just aren't there. So you leave your skirmish unfulfilled and see what else is available. There isn't any single player campaign, something you feel should exist, but you do find a defensive challenge, so you give that a go. You fire it up. It's even duller than the skirmish mode. You try and build some walls and towers to protect your town centre against the waves of attack, but the single defensive structure available to you, the guard tower, doesn't really do anything. It fires a few pitiful arrows at the enemy as they wander past, ignoring it. You can garrison archers in there, but they do nothing. One of the other things that put me off, as you'll see as I navigate through this menu, were that a lot of prominent features had placeholders with a coming soon label, which I'm afraid is a blatant lie, as it's pretty clear that this game is no longer in development and these items are never going to be released. I wonder how long people waited for those back in 2018. Anyway, we keep playing a bit more and then it dawns on you, you've been had. Just like the Hollywood mockbusters, someone tried to pull the wool over your eyes. You told Gran that you wanted the DVD of Transformers for your birthday. She takes the £10 she had left from her social security check, wanders down the high street to the local store and picks a title from the shelf. It's the next morning. You tear off the wrapping paper and for a second you really think she's come through for you. Until it comes into focus and you realise that your birthday is ruined. So, does the game have any value at all? Well, yes, a little I guess. I must confess I actually quite like the low poly look they've gone for, and it copies enough of Age of Empires mechanics that it might entertain you for a few hours. Unfortunately, I only got to play one of the nations, as the other 6 are gated behind a paywall and nothing I'd seen up to that point had convinced me to spend a single penny. I did even try to jump into the multiplayer. I queued for a ranked game for about 20 minutes but I didn't get into one, so I gave up. I later checked the Steam charts and saw that only 18 people were playing, which rendered any further attempts at 1v1 pointless. There isn't really much else I can say about Empires Apart. Describing the mechanics and units is no different than giving a surface overview of Age of Empires. And the game doesn't bring anything new or interesting to the table, so there's nothing to talk about in that regard either. There's no cutscenes to discuss, no progression to investigate, and no single player to review. Playing Empires Apart feels like building a knockoff Lego set with a few of the pieces missing. As you might have guessed, Empires Apart gets a big thumbs down from me. If I had been aware of it from the start, that thumbs down would have even been bigger because I would have had to pay $30 to be disappointed, rather than being disappointed for free. If it was 2018 and I had $30 to spend, Age of Empires 2 HD or Age of Mythology would have been a far better choice. Hi, I'm Kalu. Thanks for sitting through this shorter than usual video, and if you enjoyed it, please leave me a like. You can also subscribe if you want more.